Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Pilates Bridge Live Show with Carrie Pagès. Thank you so much for joining us. And today we're going to be talking about athletic Pilates progressions. So it's always fun to talk about Pilates, and it's even more fun to talk to Carrie because her teaching, her cues, everything I think like she has the best cues. I just love her workouts personally. And I know I've been working with Carrie for quite a few years now, so we're going to catch up on that in a second, but just her styles, her workouts, whether I'm just picking up some bits and pieces on her Instagram or through her platform, is just always, I don't know, just brings a spark back into my personal practice. I'm going to ask Carrie to introduce herself, just in case somebody doesn't know who you are. Just share a little bit about your Pilates story and why you're so passionate about Pilates.
Hi, everyone. So I have been teaching Pilates for about 25 years. I am one of those ex-dancer turned Pilates instructor gals. So I became aware of Pilates while I was training to dance professionally as a ballet dancer and dabbled in it during those years, but then eventually quit dancing. And within about 6 months to a year of quitting dance, fell into a Pilates teacher training program in Charleston, South Carolina. I am really grateful for the training that I went through. I went through a classical program. My two instructors were Colleen Glenn and Karen Sanzo. You can see bios of both women on Pilates Anytime. They've got great stories to tell about their upbringing in Pilates. I learned a lot from both of them. I learned from Colleen, the very classical, she was Romana trained. And so I learned the strictness and the seriousness and the intensity of the classical work, and that we don't break the rules. We don't ask questions. We don't elaborate on the work. And I taught that way for 16 years straight, no variations, no toying around with anything. I lived by the book for 16 years. Part of my training also, though, was with Karen Sanzo, and Karen has the most beautiful approach to the Pilates work. She comes from a PT background, but Karen brings a kindness and a passion for making everyone feel special and welcome and good enough. And my dance world really did not celebrate anything being good enough. The dance world was, you can always be better. You can always do better, do better, do better, do better. And so my mind was like brainwashed into only look at what you can't do. And Karen really taught me how to look at what I could. And it changed the trajectory, I think, of my teaching over the years. So after about 16 years of teaching strictly classical, I did start to pepper in some non-classical creative variations. I don't know. I think that this kind of like person that I am today as a teacher, I'm so grateful that I have that background of knowledge and information that I started with. But I also really believe that playing with the work at times can really bridge the gap between the people that are looking for that strictness, that regimented work, and the people that are maybe just there for movement. And I say all of that loosely, not to offend or hurt anyone. That is the words that I give this topic.
Yeah. I think this is one of the great things that you bring this creative spark into your teaching, and you still staying true to classical without just getting like too far, right? So you have a lot of followers on Instagram, and I know that if we go to Instagram, a lot of times there's a lot of stuff there, and not everything, I would say, is Pilates. And then some students will come into the studio and say, oh, I saw this thing on Instagram, but it's not anything that's Pilates. It's not a safe thing. So with all of that, how do you combine the creativity with staying true to the classical to where it's still actually Pilates in your book?
So for me, I really start with staying true to the principles and the fundamentals of the work, staying true to the principles of centering, control, concentration, flow of movement, breath, and precision, making sure that that is at the basis of the work that I do. I also, great example, yesterday I taught a series and I did about 4 exercises using the magic circle in different creative, non-classical ways before we did footwork. And when I got done teaching these 4 different variations with the magic circle, I said, actually, I didn't do all of that just to be mean, because it felt mean. It was just mean magic circle work, right? But what we did was they then laid down to do footwork on the reformer. Classical footwork, Pilates V, bird feet, heels, heel, lower lift. And we applied the sensations and the work and the effort that we had using the magic circle to our footwork series on the reformer. So my rule of thumb is that I want to take anything that is creative and I want it to somehow apply to the original work eventually. So even if in that same day it doesn't apply, at some point I'm building, there's intention behind what I'm doing. You know, I think an exercise that everyone struggles with as a teacher is pulling straps. I mean, how many clients do pulling straps properly? It's supposed to improve our posture, but when it's done poorly, it only makes it worse. So I have a lot of ways that I play with creative exercises to inform pulling straps so that the ultimate expression of the exercise is performed more appropriately or properly so that it gives the benefit of what we actually want. Because doing pulling straps 1,000 times poorly is not just good for posture.
Yeah, actually, I remember, I think it was either one of your videos or the workshops when we came to South Carolina. Pulling straps was one of the moves in there and just adding the tricep variation to really find that extension. To me, that was like, that's the moment. Like it helps take it out of the lower back, which if we're talking that specific exercise, this is where most of the people, they start complaining, I just feel that it hurts my lower back because they're jamming it. And, it's just not really anything helpful. And just making those small little adjustments really help to get into the right spot with the right cues rather than just going through the moves without really understanding how your body is supposed to be feeling in the moment.
Yeah, and that really is. I mean, I'm just trying to give people an experience that they can't feel with the work I've already given them, right? So if I've given them pulling straps on the reformer for 3 weeks straight and we're not getting anywhere, what can I do to make this more successful? It may mean I pepper in something that's a little unique and different, and then we get back on that box and try it again.
Got it. So the topic of our live show today is Athletic Pilates Progressions. So I think a lot of people can have different opinions of what it means to have an athletic progression. In your definition, when you're talking about it, what does it mean? What do you envision?
So honestly, when I use the phrasing like athletic progressions, yes, it may very well mean that it's a great exercise that applies to some type of athlete. But what I'm really trying to do is distinguish between the classical work and the non-classical work. So an athletic progression or a creative variation, those are ways to make sure, or to keep the spirit of the original work alive, but to maybe use the equipment as it maybe wasn't necessarily intended to be done. I mean, you hear that argument a lot on Instagram. If you're paying attention, there's a lot of people that say that, when you're not doing the classical work, you're just using a reformer as a piece of fitness equipment. I don't necessarily disagree with that, but if it has a purpose and an outcome that provides better success with what you're trying to succeed at, then I think that's great. I think it's a really great way to do it. And I also think that sometimes people just need a little variation. I mean, I think you've got to meet your clients where they are. I can't tell you how many clients I've had come in. For example, like someone who's really like a big with tennis, right? And they do draw the sword or swakati. They do it, 3 repetitions. And they're just like, I want more of that. That's exactly what I need for my backhand. So what do? I let her do 8 to 10 repetitions. So I meet the client where they are. And then eventually over time, we learn the whole kneeling arm series. And we learn that we don't need to do 8 to 10 repetitions. We need the 3 with the flow. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you have to adjust your teaching the flow for your clients, which is what the Pilates is about, right? Like you have the overall process, the goal, but everybody starts in a different spot and they need a lot of times take different steps along the way.
Absolutely. And we talked about the 6 principles of Pilates and they're great. And some people walk through the door and they are like on it, and they can apply 6 principles of Pilates immediately. You can tell them to breathe and focus and move the flow of movement. They're going to be able to do it. And some people just aren't. And my work also comes from being a studio owner and not just a teacher. I'm on the line to keep my business open. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get to just show up and do what I want. And if they stay, they stay. If they don't, they don't. My goal is to build a business. And so I want to just say that I think that there's like a piece of that matters, whether you are an independent contractor or however you work. Like, if you want to build your business, you do have the choice. You don't have to meet people where they are. You can teach your way, and those people will find you. But as a business owner, I'm looking to grow and build our business every day. So I'm trying to meet people where they are.
Perfect. So when we're talking again, like, let's get back a little bit to the athletic.
Okay.
If somebody is here and they're interested specifically in working with the athletes, right?
Yes.
So, and Pilates, we both know, like, it's excellent as cross training. It's just excellent as its own method. It's excellent for cross training for anybody. So if you are working specifically with an athlete, and I know you're a dancer, as you mentioned, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's your background. And, there are a lot of dancers who come to Pilates specifically for that. So how would you build their session any different specifically than just like a regular client coming just to do Pilates?
Right. No, I mean, I love the question. And I think it makes me want to backtrack a little bit, because I said that, that I always make sure that my work upholds the principles of Pilates. But the other thing that's really important to me and was really ingrained in me in my training, and it's in the first paragraph of Return to Life Through Contrology, written by Joseph Pilates, is that we are to develop the body uniformly. So that means we need a balance of flexion, extension, rotation, and side bending. We need to make sure that a body that's always rounded forward and in flexion gets that extension in their body, and maybe they need a little more extension than the person beside them. We want to look at the body, and whether it's an athlete or a mother of 3, we want to see what are their movement patterns in their day-to-day life and how can we balance out their strengths and weaknesses. Someone comes in and they're strong as they can be in their quads and footwork on 5 springs is a breeze. I'm not going to find a reformer with 15 springs and make it heavier. I'm going to teach that person maybe what they need is footwork on 1 spring. They need to build that back body connection, right? So that I help them build their body uniformly. I'm so passionate about that first paragraph of Joseph Pilates' book, Return to Life Through Contrology. So if you haven't read it in a while, get your book out and read that first paragraph. It will motivate you more than anything I can say or you can find on Instagram.
Yeah, I think it's great. And because, especially now that like more and more people turn to Pilates from different backgrounds, from different walks of life, different fitness backgrounds, athletic backgrounds, you have to meet them where they are, just like you said. And it has to be a whole body. Pilates is a whole body system. So it's not just, Pilates is going to make my golf swing better, right? Whatever.
Right.
It's more than just that.
Yeah. And like you use the example dancers, if I have a young dancer come in my studio and she's really flexible, I'm not going to just put her on there doing front splits and Russian splits and catwalk over. And maybe I'm going to let her do that some because it's fun and she's going to feel really successful and that can be fun for her. But what she needs is like pelvic tilts and curling and learning how to get in her center, right? Like, I mean, this is all, hypothetical, but I'm just saying, like, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. The work is right there. It's right there. And if you just do that skeletal level 1 workout, that level 1 reformer by Joseph Pilates, it's right there. The flexion, the extension, the rotation, the side bending, it's all right there.
So how do you think, if you have a client coming in who is, whether it's an athlete or maybe just like a fitness oriented person, right? Like they're strong in their parts of the body. A lot of times their approach is to muscle through whatever it is that they're doing, doesn't matter what exercise, and like they're just rushing through that. What are your approach, and do you have like any specific cues to help them connect to the work, the foundation, without just muscling through it?
Well, the first thing I want to say about that is some people are very proud of themselves. And so we know those clients, the ones that are very flexible and they want their leg circles to be a big 360-degree circle. And the people that come in and, you know, whatever, their legs are strong and they're going to do footwork on all 5 springs no matter what or whatever. Those people that are very proud, let them be proud. Just let them do their thing. And then you can start to pepper in some cues. So one of the things I will do for your example of like someone who rushes, I'm a very loud teacher. If you've ever come to my studio, it's quite an experience. I mean, I'm pretty loud, but I take over the room and I often have 8 people in my group classes. So I've got some of them are aging and can't hear. So I'm really conscious of making sure that I'm projecting my voice. But I'm going to stand in that room and I'm going to stand right in the middle. And I'm going to say, okay, for example, leg circles, right? Close your heels together with me. Inhale, lift up 1. Exhale, open. Inhale, lower. Close, that's 1. Inhale, up. So I'm going to take control. I'm not just going to say 8 circles. Now, with a class that can handle that, yeah, I'm totally going to say do 8 circles and I'm not going to run my mouth the whole time. But with those groups where there's a little bit of either a lack of coordination or lack of like intention for movement, I'm going to take over. I'll even use a count cue of like lift 1, 2, 3, open, lower, 2, 3, close. And just to take control. But we got to take control of the room. That said, when you've got that person in the room that's going crazy and making you crazy, ask yourself this question. Is it weird or is it dangerous? Is it weird or is it dangerous? Because if it's just weird and they're not going to hurt themselves, you can turn your back to that person and just the exercise will be over in 5 more repetitions. If it's dangerous, you walk up to them, you look them in the eye, and you say, I need you to stop. I'm worried you're going to hurt yourself. You don't giggle. You don't laugh. You're dead. Look them in the eye. I did this just yesterday. I had a client who was doing that in-between curl. So she didn't leave her head down, but she didn't curl all the way up. So she was in this weird, like very icky position. And I walked up to her and I looked her right in the eyes and I said, we talked about this on Saturday. Remember, you're either down or you're up, never in the middle. I wasn't being mean. I was taking care of her. It was unsafe for her to be working where she was, and she was going to feel worse if we kept doing it. So I think you've got to be like fun and meet people where they are and have a good time and keep your class flowing. But you've also got to take control at times and be the boss of the room because that's what they're paying you for.
Yeah, that's absolutely, especially if you're teaching classes, right? It's much easier to be the boss of the room in a private setting.
Oh my God, totally different conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what they're paying for in a private. They want that. I mean, see, I'm 100% speaking to, you've got a group class of 3 to 8 people and you're trying to, or more. And, you know, you've got that person acting crazy. But I mean, again, I love that idea of, is it weird or is it dangerous? Because if it's just weird and annoying you, it's okay. If it's dangerous, you stop them.
Got it. So if we're going back to the classes, okay, so again, a lot of the reality for a lot of the teachers that they have to teach mixed level classes. You know, ideally, yes, we want them leveled, but even in a leveled class, there still can be people who are further along than others. So if it's like a truly mixed level class, how would you structure a class that includes some of this more athletic, creative progressions while still keeping the class beginner friendly so that they can follow through? So everybody's challenged, but nobody's over the top.
So I actually teach quite a few what we call all levels classes. I have a lot of those on my schedule, and I actually feel like I'm pretty proficient at teaching that style of class. One of the things that I don't love about when I teach that style of class, and it's truly mixed level, like I've got that person who it might be their first or second group class at my studio, and then people that have been coming for 12 years. Okay. So, I'm going to admit that they're probably going to be on their backs a little bit more than I may really like. Now, I am never going to miss an opportunity. I do not teach a single class where you do not do some form of extension. So some form of swan, some form of standing extension. So While I'm saying they're going to stay on their back more than I would like, I want to be very, very clear that they will get that extension, side bending, and rotation at some point. However, I'm going to do some creative things like, and not everyone's got this apparatus option, but I have reformer tower combinations. So I do a lot of like pull-ups, and that just makes a woman feel really empowered. I mean, most women have never done a pull-up hanging from a bar, but laying on your back on the reformer using the tower push-through bar, you can do it there. Mm-hmm. Another thing that I do is I'll use my towers, and I know like a lot of studios have springboards and reformers side by side. And so I'll give progressions and layering. Okay. So let's say, for example, I know I want to teach long stretch that day. Well, I'm going to progress. Everyone's going to go to their springboard. They're going to step inside push their roll down bar, hold it out in front of them, and raise and lower it. And that's progression 1. And then if it's interesting to you to go to the reformer and do this on the reformer with your hands on the foot bar and your feet on the headrest, you can progress and do that exercise there. But that at least gives the people that are either a little afraid or have some reason why they should not be doing a plank position on a reformer, it gives them the out to continue to do the exercise with the springboard or the roll down bar. So, I mean, those are just the types of things. But again, I'm not necessarily going to like say, Amber, Sally, and Betty, you do it on the reformer, and Joyce and Dana, you're doing it on the bar. I'm going to have everybody go. We all do the same thing. And then if someone's interested in the other option, they can take that other option. So a lot of layering.
Yeah. So that's actually perfect, because one of the questions came in actually from Carrie. Question from Carrie to
I love it, Carrie.
So her question is like, I love offering progressions for my stronger clients in the group class. However, many of those who aren't quite ready for them try them anyway. So sometimes that's an awesome teaching tool for them to realize they're not there yet. But sometimes they just carry on unaware and just get frustrated if I offer them alignment help. So how do I best address this? Challenge the ones who are not ready, but not include those who aren't. So basically,
I know. People don't realize how hard our job is. They really don't. I mean, I'm going to take the really safe answer on this and just say, if I know I've got 1 to 3 people that are not going to be able to somewhat safely execute a movement, I'm not going to teach it. I mean, I am going to find something that may build up to that. But I know what that feels like. You can't make people not be people. They're going to be very human, and people are competitive. They don't mean to be, but they walk through the door and the person beside them's doing this advanced variation and they want to do it too. And then you've got to deal with the drama that they can't do it and their feelings are hurt. I just went through this the other day. I had to have a whole conversation with a client about, I realized why she wasn't successful doing teaser on the box. And I've been working with her for a really long time. I won't bore you with all the details, but the bottom line is I went up to her and I said, hey, I've had an epiphany about what's going on with you with teaser on the box, but I'm only going to share it with you if you promise me you will stop being dramatic and getting upset when you can't do your teaser, because that's never going to get you to a teaser. So we had this deal. I set it up. You may no longer have drama, but here is my assessment of why you were struggling with your teaser on the box. And it was a really nice way for me to have that conversation, connect with that client privately, and to give her the experience. And I told her, I was like, this doesn't mean you're going to have teaser in 6 months. You're probably 2 or 3 years away from finally getting your teaser on the box, but at least we have somewhere to go now. Okay. So I hope that answered the question. I mean, I guess I just want to say, like, if you're struggling and feel uncomfortable with the fact that someone maybe feels left out and unsuccessful, I would think through your programming of the class and alter it so that there's more of a sensation of success. That's definitely the route I take. It's very hard for me when someone has that. They walk out the door feeling terrible about themselves after class because they didn't do one exercise. That's hard for me, and I really try to avoid that personally in my teaching.
Do you usually plan for the class based on the people who are going to be in the class?
And this is where, I'm so excited about the workshops I'm teaching this weekend, because I'm going to be teaching the classical form, and everyone's going to get a handout, level 1, level 2, level 3, and you're going to be able to see how the classical work applies. But what I do when I go into my classes is I teach from those orders, and I pepper in what's needed to make that class feel successful, right? So I don't have to reinvent the wheel every day. I just teach Pilates and then have a little fun with it with my creative athletic variations at times. But no, I don't spend a lot of time programming my classes because I had to memorize it 25 years ago and it's never going away. It's in this head. It's part of who I am, you know? So again, I don't think that's necessarily like a must, but if anyone's curious about what that looks like, I'm doing those workshops on Saturday and I'd love for you to join me. A live Zoom. So it's hybrid. So there's going to be 20 people in the studio and then I've got people on Zoom, and you'll also get the recordings and can watch the recordings later. You will get your CECs. It's 3 CECs per workshop if that's interesting to you. But CECs aside, it's a great learning experience. I'm so excited about the way the two programs are working together. And this is kind of interesting data. So I looked at the signups this morning. Would you believe it's exactly 50% classical and 50% athletic performer variations, to the exactly 50%. It's not all the same people. So a lot of people just signed up for athletic and some people just signed up for classical. I think that's so neat.
Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of crazy. I mean, and so many people are not signed up for both. It's just the neatest thing. You will also get from my training program, my level 3 training manual, which is very valuable in my opinion. It's like my life's work in this manual. So you're going to get that. And then with each workshop, you're also going to get a workout that's a flow of what's being taught in the workshops. So you're going to get a 1-hour flow of the athletic variations, and then it's about an hour and 15-minute flow of the level 3 reformer workout. So I think it's like stacked full of value. Anyways, That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's going to be a great tool. One of the questions that came in was asking about how you prepare for the classes in terms of having the note cards or anything like that, which you kind of answered that already. But if a person who needs that more of a structured plan for the class, going to some of those workshops is going to give them those building blocks that they can bring.
Absolutely. And listen, I actually do go through phases. If I'm like in a really stressful point in my life, or a season of life where I'm really stressed out and just have like a lot going on with the kids or whatever, my brain does get really jumbled, and I will sit down the night before and just plan out classes really quick. And I do go into, you will always know Carrie's in a stressful point when she's got her handouts with her, but it is a nice way to like keep your brain on track if you're feeling like that monkey mind of like, distraction. So never, I know there's some theories that you should never take a lesson plan into the studio with you. I just deeply disagree with that. I think everybody learns differently. Some people memorize things easier than others. I think if you need a piece of paper, don't take a notebook. You don't want to be thumbing through a manual. That does not work. But a sheet of paper with some guidelines, I think it's a great process.
Do you think, and that was actually a question, that traditional Pilates cues will resonate with athletic clients? Or do you think that they need more of this performance-based language?
Performance-based language. Yeah. I think that meeting someone where they are is coming into the room with a language they understand. I think there's been a lot of conversation over the years about cueing belly to spine and all these things. Is that really effective and doesn't make sense? It makes sense to 25, 40% of the population, but there's a group that's in the room that's not going to understand, and they're not going to ask the question, what do you mean when you say that? So I really try to vary, the words I use. And, I joke all the time, like I'll just come up with some random new cue, but I have to, because I can't teach like the same words, 25 years straight. You gotta start thinking about something, and Anastasia, I want to go back to, I just want to make sure that I'm answering the question, because the question was,
I read it. Do you think traditional Pilates cueing still resonates with athletic clients, or are you seeing a shift towards performance-based language?
Yeah. I think that we all need to evolve. We've learned a lot in the last 10 years. The science and the research says so much about the way we cue the breath and all of that. I think you've got to stay up with the times, and old cues don't resonate anymore. They don't work anymore necessarily. So yeah, I mean, if you have an athlete comes in and he's the tennis player, I need to know what some of the language is and ask her questions. What's that? What's this position? Oh, that's your backhand. Okay. So I want you to think about if you were doing your backhand, where would you recruit it from? Could you recruit it from your belly more than your shoulder? Or however, that works.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really funny. I don't like to teach with anatomical language. Now, that is a choice I make, but I can't tell you how many times over the course of 25 years I've used something as simple as a tricep or a bicep. And a client that's been with me for 5 years says, "Oh, so this is your bicep?" And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I feel like I've wronged her. Like I don't get mad at her. I get mad at myself because I'm like, I never taught her. So I just say back of the arm, front of the arm. I point to things,
Mm-hmm.
So, I just think everyone's got to, you got to honor like your language and how you communicate best, because that's where you're going to feel the most confident, is where it feels the most natural. So I would just say continue to get more confident in what makes sense to you, and you'll be able to make that make more sense to others.
Yeah, and I think specifically with athletes, which you mentioned, it's important to understand where they're coming from and what terminology they're using, because obviously cues that you would use with dancers are going to be very different than the cues you would use with a runner, or let's say like a soccer player or a tennis player. It's like they're in different world. Even their minds, you can say, just work different.
Right.
So you
100%.
have to adapt the cueing to the person in front of you. Awesome. So we have a couple of questions actually. We're going to go back to the classes. What are some of your favorite ways to adapt athletic variations to clients who are either older, dealing with injuries, or need maybe stability, some kind of issues basically going on? So would you still, first of all, teach the athletic variations to clients like that, especially in a class? And if you will, how would you adapt them?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily. I mean, I think this really does go back to, if we're looking at how can we work with someone privately and one-on-one and build the strength, mobility, and flexibility and strength to perform some of these varied exercises more proficiently, that's one conversation. But in a group class where you've got 3 people who, are absolutely capable, and then you've got the one person who's had a hip replacement, a knee replacement, and was vacuuming this morning and their rotator cuff is acting up on them again. I mean, what are you going to do? Now, I do have a strategy though. Another strategy that I will use is give the layers. And then I will say, I'm going to progress to the next layer, or that I'm going to progress to the next exercise. If this exercise doesn't feel right for you today, just lay there. It'll be over in a few repetitions. And just having that sentence in my mouth makes it so easy. And I sometimes even make a little joke. I'll say, you can go get a glass of water, or you can get a latte next door, because we've got this fancy coffee shop next door to our studio. So I just make a little joke. Everyone giggles. I proceed forward with the 3 people who can do the exercise. The other person chills out. And then I make sure that the rest of the class is inclusive. Because I do think, as someone mentioned earlier, when you're leaving someone out over and over and over, that's really hard. I mean, a beginner signs up for an advanced class. I think in some ways there's a strategy to that. Let them know this class was not appropriate for them. If you teach down to the beginner, they're going to think, well, heck, I just did a great job in advanced class. I hope that makes sense, but that's like a little, there's a line there, right? It just gets really tricky. And again, my lens of a studio owner plays into this so much more than just as a teacher. I mean, I'm got a lot of students, and we are trying to make a lot of people happy. And that can be a really challenging thing,
Yeah.
I mean, we had an example where I had to call, a woman wanted her mother to get started with us. And she came in and she said on her form that she had no issues. She walked in with a cane, and she could barely get from the front door to the studio where she was working out in. And I talked to the instructor afterwards. The instructor said, I feel like it's beyond my scope of practice to work with this student. So I called and I let them know that that was the situation. And they were not happy at all. They were not happy with me. But it's beyond my scope of practice. I'm not a physical therapist. I'm not someone, not a physician. I am not a rehabilitator. I teach exercise and I can adapt to certain situations, but at some point there's a line.
Yeah, especially again in a class situation.
Yeah.
Like even in a private one, but yeah.
Yeah.
So there's another question that came in from Sandy. Her question was like, how do we respond best when we have a client trying to make Pilates like a gym workout?
I don't know.
And I think that might be more true now. Like, there are different ways of teaching Pilates that became very trendy right now. And I think this is something that, Sandy might be referring to, right? Like we're going to say like reformer Pilates, again, not talking down or anything like that. There's just different ways of what people associate with Pilates. So
but I think like fitness classes on a reformer, I think that's a very fair. I admit to doing fitness movements on a reformer. I do that sometimes. So I think that's a very kind way to say it.
Okay, perfect. Fitness, yeah. So then if a person's coming into a studio that's more of a traditional Pilates studio and they expect, I guess maybe their assumption is using Pilates like as a gym, like maybe whatever it is, like looking for that more of the burn feeling, or maybe just being more independent, right? Like people at the gym, how would you handle a client like that?
I think a lot of times that type of client they come in with that energy, but oftentimes that's also the client that's going to say things like, oh, let's get ready for our summer bodies, or, ooh, that's going to be my bikini booty or something like that. And I often will interrupt someone that exclaims that in the middle of class. And it just happened this past week. I said, or we're doing movements that are going to make us better able to perform our daily tasks with ease and pleasure. And so I kind of create a culture in our studio that kind of nips that in the bud and lets people know, like, this is not where you're going to get that. And we've lost clients. I mean, we have a lot of Pilates studios in Wilmington. It's bananas here. I mean, I need to do a count one day. There's 1,000 of them. But I think that what I love about our studio is I say when I sign people up, if we're not the right studio for you, I'm going to help you find the right studio, because there's a lot of studios in town. I know all the studio owners. I can help you find the right fit. We might not be the right fit for you, and we're okay with that, but I promise I'm going to help you find your right studio. And I'm the admin of my business, so I'm the one who answers all the calls. I say that daily to people. Because I never want to make the promise that we are going to be the right fit. I mean, a great example was the woman I said today. I had to call her and say, I'm so sorry, but we recommend you go to a Pilates studio that's within a PT clinic. This is the name of the studio. This is the owner. This is where I recommend you go, because we are not, like, this is beyond our scope of practice, was the language I used.
And that's
so
great.
I hope that answered that question. I feel like I keep going off the rails.
I mean, some of those questions, like some of those situations, you have to be in the moment just to really address it the way that it is. And I think if a person is ultimately looking for something that your studio does not offer, they will never be happy at your studio or in your class, no matter what you're trying to tell them. If their expectations are completely different from what your studio environment is, they'll never be happy. Yeah. So they just need to find their happy spot.
Well, and when I'm picking up on that in my studio, I mean, just as an example, like in my studio, I don't have any mirrors. So I have this great way of being able to say, if you notice there's not a mirror in this studio, this is not about what you look like and how, this is about how we move through our daily life. And so and that is immediately going to turn some people off. They're like, no, I want flatter abs and skinny thighs. Okay, then we are not the studio for you, because we will not teach you. Like, that could potentially be a byproduct of the work you do in here. And if that is what you're looking for, fabulous. But we are not teaching classes for slim thighs and flat abs. That is not what we do at my studio. And I do say that. So if there's a new energy that comes in the room, I'm going to find a way to say that.
Okay.
Because that's super important to me, because the clients that have been with us for a while, someone comes in and they're just like, hey, make me skinny today. Or something. That is not, I mean, that makes people that have been coming to me for years feel very unsafe. And that is not good at my studio.
I guess that goes back to the fact that you have to be, as a teacher or as a studio owner, you really have to stay grounded, and I guess I would say like authentic, right? Like you need to know who you are and what you stand for. You can't be everything for everybody. You just need to know your language, and need to know your people, and need to know how to express what it is that you stand for.
Yeah, I really agree with that, Anastasia, but I want to just say something very transparent. Like, I know that I like to joke I'm part of the problem because I'm an Instagram person, and I know so many people do get inspiration off my page, and I'm so grateful for that. But as an Instagram consumer, it wrecks my heart some days. I mean, honestly, leading up to teaching my workshops this weekend, I've just said to myself, stay off of it for don't scroll for 48 more hours, because I'm going to see that classical Pilates person that's a little on the mean side, and I'm going to get all in my head that whatever. And then I'm going to see the person that's doing something athletic, and I'm going to make some judgment. I think I want to share and be transparent that while I sound very grounded and clear on where I am in a sense, but on the other hand, I get those moments of imposter syndrome and confusion too. And I truly believe Instagram is a huge part of it. Like, if I wasn't exposing myself to that daily, I think I'd have a clearer, so I just want to share that, because if you're starting to feel that, you guys, I love the Instagram community. It's a huge part of my business. I'm so grateful for it, but it's a problem. I mean, it can really hurt your feelings, and it can really, it can change your day if you're not real careful. It can change your heart and make you think that you're not good enough. And you all are. If you got people coming to see you, people are walking through the door to work out with you, you are doing great things. So put the phone down if it's starting to hurt your feelings. Just promise me that.
That's great. Yeah, I think that's a great reminder in today's world of too much technology around us. And we can't let it control our lives, really, or our thoughts and emotions, especially in the world of Pilates. Well, not in everything, but in the world in Pilates, I think it affects a lot of people. I feel like both teachers and
it does. I mean, I just had someone send me something yesterday about the Pilates police are out about this topic. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to talk about it. Let the Pilates police be the Pilates police. And if you're clicking Pilates police, the algorithm knows it, and it's going to make more Pilates police show up in your algorithm. So I'm just saying, you got to be careful. You got to be careful what you tap.
That's right. So we're kind of coming to an end. One thing I wanted to ask you, and I know something that always attracted me to you and to your style of teaching is just you're always so cheerful and joyful in the way that you present your classes, present your workshops, present everything to you. So where do you draw your inspiration for Pilates, for being so jovial about Pilates, even in spite of
my gosh,
the Pilates police or whatever else that might be going on?
I think I'll start with one thing, which is I do Pilates. I say this all the time. People ask me, how do you get better at cueing? How do you get more excited about your teaching? I think you've got to do Pilates. And that doesn't always look like this beautiful, 60-minute workout 3 times a week. That's not what it looks like in my life. But I do it when I can, and I play. What's it like if I do this on 1 spring? What's it like if I do it on 2? What's it like if I do it on 5? Oh my God, I can't move, but what if I tried? And what would, and you just have to play. And that's where the cues come from. I really love doing continued ed. I do, make sure to at least get out of my studio twice a year and go do something. One time I just got on the plane on a Friday afternoon at the last minute and flew up to New York and did workshops all weekend. It was a last minute thing. And I just went, you know what? I need this today. I need this. Now, my life was conducive to that. I'm not saying everyone's is, but just keep learning. There's hey, I did a continued ed course recently and I didn't really like it, but I learned a lot about myself and I did learn some great exercises, but it was neat. Like, I just think even if something's not a perfect fit, you learn more about who you are and how to get more out of your experience, even when it's not the, oh my gosh, that was the best thing I ever did, And I think that when it really comes to trying to be joyful in my teaching approach and my workshops and my day-to-day teaching, I think the world is really hard. I think there's a lot out there to be like sad about and feel disappointed about. And my only goal when you come to see me is that you feel just a little bit better when you walk out the door. And I live by that hour after hour after hour at my studio. So even if it's just me giving some corny joke or the work applies to you that day and you have this breakthrough moment, whatever that may be for you, I just want you to walk out the door feeling a little better than when you walked in it. And even with the online studio, I mean, when I film those workouts, I just want you to feel like you're working out with a friend. Like, I know what that's like to be by yourself in the studio and you're just like, what am I going to do today? So my hope is it's like you're getting to work out with Carrie. It's like a fun little thing. I'm going to hang out with her for 45 minutes. So I never want people to feel alone. And like, it's easy to look at someone like me and think that like my clients just think it's so cool that they have Carrie Pagès as their teacher. They don't. I'm just Carrie in Wilmington. Nobody cares who I am in Wilmington, North Carolina. My clients come to me and you guys, they roll their eyes. They don't listen. They have their Apple Watches up and are staring at their text messages the whole time. I mean, I almost said a bad word. Like, that's how upset that makes me. But I mean, I just want you to know you're not alone. I'm the same way. I mean, I experience the same things you're experiencing. But I want you to, I'm hoping that the things I do on Instagram just give you like a little spark and maybe, oh, I could do that today in my personal practice. Not saying you necessarily are going to teach it, but maybe just play around. So I don't know. I hope that's my answer to that, Anastasia.
Awesome. And then I think something that you did not mention, if somebody is looking for some of the creative spark, you have your online platform for it, but something that you started that's kind of newer to your platform is that they actually get to hang out with you every month.
Yes.
Right?
Like, yes, this has been so much fun. Like live on Zoom, but yes, so this is so much fun. So I just added live mini workshops once a month to the online platform. So once a month you log on with me and we do about a 45-minute long workout. And then after that, I just sit down and we chit chat and you can ask me anything. You can ask me anything that applies to the little 45-minute workshop class we just did, or you can talk to me about something that's going on in your studio that's a challenge or in your client that's a challenge. So we just sit there, we chit chat for 45 minutes or so. And it is such a fun way for me to connect with the members of my online platform. It has been so much fun. We've done 2. And then the next one is on September 30th. It's a Tuesday at 3:00.
And do you usually have like is it just like a workout or do you have some kind of planned theme for this live session?
There's always a theme. So the first one was an abdominal connection theme. That one was really fun. We all were sore for a couple of days. And then the second one was tendon stretch. We went through and broke down tendon stretch and talked about all the different ways that you can adapt the exercise to eventually get to the full expression of the exercise. That was really fun. And then the next one I'm doing is about planking and kind of like wrist and forearm and all that kind of stuff. So when you've got a lot of people with wrist issues and they complain, how can we help them? We're not going to solve that problem. We all know that, but we can help them. And what are some modifications and things that we can do to help people feel more successful and stronger in their planking positions?
And I think that's actually going to tie in really great with our conversations. We're talking about athletic progressions. Like planks is one of those athletic moves. If somebody wants to feel strong and powerful, it's especially for women, maybe not so much for the guys, they're all great and all that, but strong. But like for women, being able to hold that plank, doing something like that, that's a big accomplishment. Then it's an easy move and one way to add to the class, right? It's part of the classical system.
Yeah.
But there are also so many clients, like you mentioned, who are not able to do it because of some wrist issues and things like that. So learning how to teach that and make it available or modified in different ways to the clients, that's a great way to
Yeah.
bring that athletic element into any type of class, pretty much.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk about like even just some wrist mobility, like flexibility, some like drills and stuff you can do to work on that. I've got some pretty fun things planned. So I'm excited about that one. But yeah, I mean, it's all of that's just going to help inform whether you're doing the classical work or the any form of Pilates that you're teaching. I think it can really apply to the work that you're teaching.
And then if somebody can't make it live, are they able to watch the recording of it?
Yes. So the mini
It's just going to
workshops
be.
they live on the site and you can always access that mini workshop after it's completed and uploaded to the site.
And if you guys haven't checked out Carrie's website, make sure to do that. You can actually try the whole platform for $1 for 5 days. Just go there and you can check out, I think it's like over 400 videos. It's huge. Like there's every apparatus, every type of workout that we'll think of. So you can definitely find a lot of inspiration if this is what you're looking for. Thank you so much, everyone who joined us. And I know we had like several comments, people saying that that they enjoyed it, got lots of great takeaways, and yeah, definitely sharing that they've also feeling this imposter syndrome, even if it's if they've been teaching for a while. So that's definitely something a lot of teachers struggle with, and just have to staying it together, just keep practicing Pilates, right? Like what would be your last the last word, the last word of advice, of gem of wisdom to leave this conversation with?
I always come back to everyone asks, how do I get better at A, B, anything? You've got to do Pilates. If you want to cue better, if you want to be better at the exercise, doing Pilates, like doing tendon stretch and not being successful, you're never going to get successful if you don't work through the process of it being unsuccessful. Like I couldn't do teaser on the box for a year. It took my body 1 year to figure out how to do teaser on the box. And I still am not proficient at it. Can I do it? Some days, but it's still not my best exercise. But there's no fast track. There's a word I've been using, but there's no fast track around the work. You've got to do the work. So I highly recommend get on that reformer, move your body, do all the ranges of motion of the body, and just give yourself that gift and then see what happens when you do that. But a lot of times we complain and say, I'm not a good enough cuer. I'm not good enough at this exercise, but are we actually working harder? Yeah. I don't know.
You got to do the work.
You got to do the work. There's no free pass. I think that's what I was looking for. There's no free pass.
No free pass. Yeah, you got to do the work. Yeah, everything. Well, thank you so much, Carrie. It was a wonderful conversation. Thank you for sharing your joy of Pilates, your wisdom, your experience with us. And thank you so much to everyone who joined us.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.